Welcome to the Deer Industry New Zealand podcast. This episode is a presentation from the 2020 Deer Industry Conference.
Good afternoon. I'd like to cover the very valuable DINS DFA relationship with highlights from the year, covering the annual Deer Industry Conference, its link with P2P, the Next Generation Conference in South Canterbury, branch chairman's meetings, politics, submissions, and communications. In May 2019, at the Reflections and Directions annual Deer Industry Conference, Dan Cooper and Ian Walker reflected on an industry scorecard. In the areas relating to within New Zealand aspects of the DINS strategy, they reported that growing on-farm value, in their view, scored an A+. I agree, and it continues and is increasing. A cohesive industry scored a B-. The advanced parties are well supported, the next generation oversubscribed, but many farmers are not involved and some DFA branches are struggling. There's no real change there, and it is a major challenge for the DFA. Respected industry, they scored a C. I think we're at least a B-. Other farmers view deer farming positively, but there is still work to be done with the public officials and politicians. Sustainable practice on farm, in some respects, is disappointing that we haven't met our farm environment plan target, but I think it rates at least a B-, as DFA branches and the deer industry environment groups are having significant impact, as will new regulations. In reviewing the activity over the past year involving the interaction between the DINS team and the DFA at all levels, sees we've accepted these challenges and continued to meld and advance the cohesive and respected aspects of the DINS strategy, especially focusing on producer engagement. The producer management activities have grown over the past 18 years and now live in a substantial alliance cemented with DINS with the advent of the P2P program. On the ground, the advanced party initiatives throughout the country, the current innovation leadership programs, and individual commitment continued growth. Emerging new leadership and innovators of modern deer farming are inspiring an industry by example, with many of these farms now into the next generation succession. That Wellington 2019 conference, Reflection and Directions, continued as a DINS DFA integrated event. The conference created value for the attendees and wider industry by balancing a bevy of highly talented keynote speakers with an outstanding facilitator in MC and with Jamie Fitzgerald, who also committed time pre-conference with the DFA's SAP, Executive Committee and the branch chairs. Instead of talking exclusively at delegates, the 180 attendees were also encouraged to actively participate in a workshop format to establish an environmental scorecard for the industry and clarify exactly what our strengths and weaknesses are and what practice changes must occur over the next few years. Throughout the year, the industry has extended its reach and strategy around the growing negative political and societal reaction to farming per se. While this public reaction is not necessarily based on informed view, there is a dominantly strong political emphasis on farming and environmental risks that livestock can pose, and has occupied significant time this year in a combined approach. A highlight of the conference was the reporting from the P2P program, both the venison company updates in market and on farm as part of the advanced party and regional workshop extension activity. The only negative was the lack of interest and response from any government ministers to attend, which was a key reason for returning to Wellington. That remains a concern. The industry also remains committed to the relationship with Perium Media to provide permanent accessible records of this annual event. I'd like to cover the features of the year in the Next Generation annual branch chairmans and new faces meeting. DINS, alongside DFA, physically and financially actively supports these two key events. The Next Generation program is now in its 7th year and attracted a record 70 delegates visiting two outstanding properties in Halden Station and Melior Genetics in South Canterbury. Beyond an excellent farm tour and explanation of how both these properties work, twin themes of understanding and utilising the genetic gain that's available today via Deer Select in continuation with the ongoing aspects of succession and building a reputation and the value of your integrity in career planning were the twin themes. The event also links with the P2P initiative in hosting the final days of the Future Farmers Tour, an introduction to deer farming, which allowed the revelation that about half the delegates of this next generation were under 25 years of age. This 2020 event will be based in Central Hawke's Bay on the 6th and 7th of August and features farming in a drought crisis with farm visits to Smedley Station and then to Temco Ag, hosted by George Williams and Laura Billings, and later will connect with the Rural Support Trust and the banking sector. October's annual DFA Branch Chairs and New Faces Conference has expanded to be an active 2-day event in which available DINS board members and executives contribute. This meeting allows access to key government officials and keynote speakers. This year, we extended the links with Federated Farmers, Beef and Lamb New Zealand, PAMU, Ag First, plus the Ministry for the Environment and MPI. In addition, the conference workshop deer wintering systems, as well as enjoying the company of 6 new faces from the branches. That introduction has been running since 2006 and is co-funded with DINS and designed to encourage leadership roles at branch and national level. The event also concluded with a DFA thanks and farewell function for retiring DINS CEO Dan Coop. Dan's relationship with the DFA was characterised by his constructive support and continued accessibility for DFA leadership to DINS staff and their portfolio updates. This occurs today as a significant part of all executive committee meetings. That continues with monthly teleconference with the DINS chairman and CEO as well. In terms of politics and submissions and the DFA perspectives, we enjoy a strong working relationship with all DINS executives, no better expressed in the openness and cooperation in developing submissions in areas of common interest. The DFA is particularly fortunate to have had both Lindsay Fong and Catherine Sayer as allies in developing submissions, both jointly and separately in areas like NATE and the fast-moving myriad of regional and national environmental policy. DINS presents its own but well-informed view by virtue of that cooperation. The recent complementary DINS and DFA submissions on the essential freshwater policy, Actions for Healthy Waterways, are an excellent case in point, and certainly the deer industry's views and realities have been reflected somewhat in the final outcomes. None of this is valuable without good communication. And while it's true that regionally many of the DFA branches have struggled for growth and succession and to add to their own events beyond velvet competitions and the odd workshop, but the relevance of the DFA remains strong, with 1,190 subscribing members from around 1,400 active deer farms. To me, that suggests that the inclusion of the DINS board and executive staff alongside the many and varied aspects of the passion to profit activity reflects the evolution of a DFA into a whole of industry engagement from pasture to plate. A key factor has been the communication development and quality of information that now arrives in both printed and electronic form. This is exemplified by the bi-monthly deer industry news. There will be few people that attend any of the industry events, from branch field days prior to P2P, the Focus Farm, Environment Awards, and the Showcase Field Days, and advanced party and regional workshops, that haven't drifted by Deer Industry News editor Phil Stewart's camera lens, or have been listened to, quoted, and had those events expanded into the outstanding information resources we have as our flagship journal. It's also been gratifying indeed to see the DFA's Stagline Online monthly electronic newsletter progress from a 2-sided wall of typing that the Executive Committee started 14 years ago, now with issue 152 circulated by the net to 1,200 active DFA members and associates. It's also been a welcome addition to have the monthly inputs from DINS executives commenting on recent activity in their portfolios and using Stagline to seek comment and reactions to DINS programs and initiatives. The credit for and development of that lies entirely with the great communication and administration managers that our team within DINS has benefited from over the years. Natalie, Hannah, Amy, Kenwyn, and Rebecca. All are multi-talented, efficient and creative in the communications and events development arena, and have all provided an ongoing stepwise change to the face of DFA communications through DINS, far beyond the expectations of this role developed 18 years ago. Good communication and engagement with producers remains the driving force of the DFA in today's world. Like this virtual conference adaptation of our traditional event, today's world is all about being able to adjust, adapt, and seek continual improvement in the servicing of producer needs for great representation, great communication, and great service. The combination of DFA's national and branch structure embedded in and serviced by a committed team and structure within DINS, I believe meets the vision for the DFA established in the early 2000s and will continue to serve deer farmers well into the future. It's immensely satisfying to have a small part in that relationship and its cooperative power. Thanks very much.
Great to hear there from Producer Manager for Deer Industry New Zealand, Tony Pearce's presentation on how the New Zealand Deer Farmers Association's activities are representing members' interests on all those things: deer productivity, environmental stewardship, and of course the business of getting down and farming deer. And Tony joins us from a cold, wet Dunedin. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Sarah.
How wonderful presentation showing that the DFA has been very busy in the last 12 months. Now, as we've, for anyone who's just joined us, we are taking questions for the presenters on the 2020 Deer Industry New Zealand online virtual conference series. So please, wherever you're watching on YouTube, or of course on the Facebook comments or on Slido on the deernz.org website. I have a few questions of my own here for Tony, but of course it's not about me, it is about you. Tony, what does the conferencing plan look like for 2021? I was very excited about heading to the wonderful Bill Richardson Museum in Invercargill.
Well, that will all be happening in 2021, same week, so it's the 18th, 19th, and on the 20th, the Advanced Party National Conference will also become, in effect, the field day. So it's exactly the same, and the Transport World were very gracious, no penalties for cancellation, and things will just proceed as they were planned for this year. And our feature keynote speakers have also all committed to being available for that week. So have our sponsors, so it's really encouraging.
And what a great time to launch the 50 years of deer farming that Linda Gray has so kindly been working on. And the DFA have sponsored this?
We're part sponsors, so we're clearly the DFA's formation in 1975 was a little bit later than the first deer farming licence, but an integral part of the whole history of deer farming. And we've done a lot of work with Linda, and the DFA felt that it was worthy of giving some financial kickstart. So we've contributed at $10,000 from what has been a pretty good surplus within the DFA. And we're not there to build up funds, we're there to use them.
I certainly remember the 50 years of Angus in New Zealand, or 150 years, my apologies, and the book that went with that, and it was absolutely fabulous. Bill Robinson would like to know, will Rising Stars happen again in April or earlier?
The plan is, again, to have it in April, and part of that is to get around or to make the transport of these massive hard antler heads easier, fully stripped and dried. And so we have rebooked the same venue and the same event for Cromwell at this point, but it's certainly not cemented in stone.
Are there any other... Sorry, Tony.
We'll discuss that further at the branch chairs meeting in October.
Wonderful. Are there any other initiatives between the DFA and DINS that would be useful to share with our audience?
Well, I think virtually everything that both organisations do have DFA in the background, and farmers right in the foreground as well. I don't think the two organisations have ever worked as closely and as strongly together across so many diverse fields. So I think the Advanced Party program and the Passion to Profit have just lifted that whole of industry vision to a new level, and it's very encouraging. And you can see that when you go out to field days or activities, just what a buzz there is around the industry at the moment. And it's also so gratifying to see so many young people, be they staff or new farmers in succession, coming in and supporting those programs.
Tony, in all of the work they're bringing farmers and the consumer closer together between the two organisations, and for the time that I've been working with the deer industry now, it has been so encouraging to get to the point, Tony, that you've just done an online presentation, and then you have someone from the restaurant trade in the US currently watching here, Angus Cleland, checking in from Napa Valley, in California, watching. That must be so humbling.
Oh, well, it is somewhat nervously humbling, but that's great. And certainly these past weeks have shown just how we can do things differently and as effectively, but never lose sight of that one-on-one contact or group contact within the industry has driven the passion and the fun and the enjoyment in this industry for so long. I hope that continues.
And some special words here from Angus, Tony. He said the US restaurant trade is down but not out. It will come back. Keep the faith. You produce a first-class product. If you'd like to watch this episode, head to Deer Industry on YouTube to find that and more from the 2020 Deer Industry Conference. And for more information, head to www.deernz.org.